The narrative begins with a trembling-voiced girl who tells a fable about a mouse that lived content until a raven appeared to warn that a darkness was capable of reaching anyone anywhere. This warning, spoken with the imprecise honesty of childhood, acts like a rope that ties memories and presences in the house, and that, without Laura noticing immediately, begins to weave the plot that later would become a well-crafted nightmare. The cabin appears at the end of the path over the lake like a promise of rest, wood that creaks as if it remembered all the hands that have touched it. The surroundings are a slow composition of smells and noises, with pines that whisper and the surface of the lake reflecting clouds and sometimes some light that seems to come from nowhere. There are signs that that property had recent movements. A car leaned against an oak with dented bodywork, and a dangling side mirror announces an abrupt arrival. Old footprints in the mud overlap more recent marks and show indecision. Crumpled papers, hastily made scribbles, and children's drawings torn by the wind pile up on the porch, as mute evidence that normality there has already suffered ruptures. An axe propped on the car's hood looks like an instrument left behind by carelessness, or to never be touched again. Laura is 38 years old. She carries in her eyes the persistent exhaustion of someone who manages work, bills, and the almost obsessive care with her daughters. She packs suitcases with quick, rehearsed gestures. Sean is the husband who promised to arrive before nightfall. He has already had months of absence due to a job that keeps him away frequently. He tells his wife, who couldn't come on the trip with them, that there was an unforeseen event, that he would stop by work first, and that he would arrive later, and this promise serves to calm Laura inside and out. Kayla is 12 years old. She observes the world with a curiosity that makes her notice marks in the dust and patterns in peeling paint. Maddie, at 6, falls asleep in an instant and smiles even more quickly, but her light sleep shatters at the slightest out-of-place sound. The family heads to the remote cabin and, after a few hours of travel, finally arrives. But a wooden gate blocks the road, and the padlock does not yield easily. Laura's strength is good for shopping and routine, but the gate's metal requires more. It is then that Owen appears, a local middle-aged man, apparently helpful, with calloused hands and a look that lingers too long on the children. He unlocks the gate naturally. His speech is not aggressive, but carries a certain strangeness when he asks if they will stay there alone, to which Laura replies no, because her husband will soon come. He mentions, as if it were just old news, that a family had to move years ago after problems with a son named John. He speaks of John without showing empathy, as someone describing a domestic animal that broke the fence. Laura keeps the story as a footnote and tries not to let it grow like a seed. Laura and her daughters finally arrive at the lake house. Laura starts unpacking while Kayla and Maddie play nearby. Soon she receives a call from Sean, who says he will arrive around 11 p.m. because he stopped to buy some gifts. After the call, Laura leaves the phone in the car and returns to her tasks. Meanwhile, Kayla and Maddie play near the treehouse. That's when Kayla spots a red yarn thread nearby. Curious, the girls head toward the forest. The thread is wrapped around several tree roots and leads to a makeshift table among them. 2 perfectly decorated cupcakes wait on a plate. Maddie eats one without ceremony, and Kayla pockets the other as a gift for her father. The gesture is simple, yet beautiful. Laura, busy with pots and clothes, takes time to notice that the girls unraveled the thread trail. The moments in which the children are unsupervised are short, almost invisible, but enough for something to happen. When Laura looks out again, she feels a cold she cannot name and goes after them. Fortunately, she finds them at the doorway, and the girls have returned home as if nothing had happened. Kayla tries to hide something in the closet with hurried hands and says it is a surprise for the father. And even though the explanation sounds plausible, the feeling that the experience was not innocent remains. Night comes with heavy clouds and a wind that rocks the voices of the pines. To keep routines that soothe and occupy thoughts, Laura takes a book from the shelves, a worn volume titled "The Darkness Hides." The pages are yellowed, the illustrations simple and disturbing, with dolls and figures that more resemble mannequins and elongated silhouettes. As she flips through, Laura notes drawings of 3 figures that make an uncomfortable echo with the things she had seen set up in the yard. She asks Kayla about the drawings. Kayla replies that the figures were already there. The girl's answer adds layers to what until then could be explained by coincidence. Maddie begins to complain of a stomachache. The malaise progresses with a small and frightening vomit. When cleaning Maddie's mouth, Laura finds a little fabric bow with the word "hello" roughly sewn. The small bow is like a note without a sender. Laura looks in the closet, and inside finds the cupcake with another bow with the word "goodbye." This discovery shocks the mother. The childish language of the words hello and goodbye placed together in shell as if announcing entry and exit, beginning and end, brings a reading that admits no naivety. The mother understands that the cupcakes may have been corrupted in some way. She tries to ask for help and notices that the house's telephone line is cut. The cell signal seems weak, and the moments run with a new haste, a haste of someone who realizes that escape routes may have been planned. Searching for the cell phone, she runs to the car. In the back seat, she finds Maddie's doll wrapped in a cloth, something that proves someone had been inside while they occupied the house. The sense of invasion raises the hair on her skin. They try to leave driving. Something flies against the driver's window. The glass shatters and the noise makes the heart jump. Attempting to accelerate the car, the vehicle hardly moves. The wheel bolts have been removed. The sabotage is clear. With no viable way out, they run back inside and barricade doors with what they have at hand: tables, chairs, and whatever else they can push to create a fragile defense against someone who knows how to plan. The early hours are not peaceful. Amid noises in the attic that resemble practiced steps, Laura and her daughters discover a family photograph stuck to the window. The faces have been scratched, carved with precision and violence, except Laura's face, which remains intact. The image acts as a focus. The feeling is that there is an attention directed at her. The mind seeks explanations, memories of disputes, strange men looking too much, or old acquaintances. Outside, Sean arrives at the property. He finds the red thread trail and a note with the phrase, "Follow me crudely sewn." Curiosity and hope mix. He follows the thread to the back, moving away from the gate, and is drawn into a scene that mixes childhood and ritual. Wooden mannequins are arranged around a table with a tea set. Laura's phone is in the center of the table as an offering. The setup is aesthetic and repulsive. It reveals that the aggressor does not act on impulse. He has a pattern, a macabre aesthetic that guides him. Back at the cabin, the noises intensify with knocks on the door and footsteps walking on the roof. A voice, that sounds like Sean's, calls Laura by name. Hope makes her open the door cautiously. Outside, what seemed to be him reveals itself as a sham. A recorder tied to a rope reproduces voices and laughs. Soon after, reality reveals itself brutally and immediately when Sean's body appears on the roof and falls at her feet, motionless. The scene destroys Laura in every way. The world contracts around her despair. The yard has been transformed into a stage. Mannequins around, a woman hanging, children on swings that swing without visible hands, and eggs thrown at the scene as a gesture of petty cruelty. The casual mention Laura made earlier about the eggs is used as a bite against her routine and against her reality. The mannequins replicate the book's drawings with disturbing precision. Kayla understands that the perpetrator of the attacks follows the book as a script. This understanding, paradoxically, offers a small chance to know the aggressor's actions. They are calculated, choreographed, and that means there may be repetition and pattern in his acts. Amid successive attacks of thrown objects, the invader hurls a large mannequin against a window. The impact forces mother and daughters to seek refuge upstairs. Laura decides to go down because she still believes there is a possibility of escape if she recovers the car keys. Going down, she finds Owen, who returned to the property to check the noises. Before words can be exchanged, Owen is hit and falls. The loss of a potential ally tips the scale of terror beyond the walls. The invader finds Laura, seizes her, and drags her through the window. The girls hide as all improvised survival guides describe, but now the action is raw, and a child's instincts go beyond any manual. Kayla takes a kitchen knife with the frozen determination of someone assuming a mission. She follows sounds and finds her mother tied in the car trunk. The rescue attempt scene fragments into pieces of time and movement. The aggressor reappears, strikes her, and the girls recoil. The girls stay under the bed when the invader approaches and speaks. The man introduces himself as John. He speaks with a calm that surprises. He says he grew up in that house and that he spent years watching the families who lived there. He states that the book, the darkness hides, was his. For him, the book is not just text. It is a script, it is a map, it is a project. This self-proclamation transforms his violence into something he perceives as artistic completeness. He is not an animal blinded by impulse. He believes himself the author of a work that needs to be completed. The girls watch this justification with fear and with the slow and painful understanding that they face someone who recounts his acts as if describing a craft. John uses means of control that do not require constant brute force. He uses toys, melodies, drugs, and artifices to numb and manipulate. The next morning, the girls wake surrounded by mannequins, each marked with personal references that refer to previous victims and symbols from John's past. His plan is to transform people into parts of his work, convert existence into exhibition, and that gives the acts a ritual dimension that increases dread without stepping into graphic details. Kayla remains motionless, her body in shock, and feels the presence of someone approaching with a mannequin arm in hand. Kayla gains some time, for at that moment a music box plays, a children's melody that cuts the air with its acute innocence. The melody works as a distraction. John turns toward the sound and his attention is divided. Laura, who had disappeared briefly and seemed out of reach, reappears with a surge of strength she didn't know she possessed. She grabs the forgotten axe and strikes John from behind. Laura begins a fierce fight against John, but soon realizes he is far superior in brute strength. His blows are heavy, violent, almost inhuman. Each impact makes her body shudder, and the pain spreads like fire through her bones. The dry sound of the blows echoes, and the metallic taste of blood already fills her mouth. But even so, she does not back down, because a mother's desperation reveals itself more powerful than any muscle. Fueled by the fear of losing her daughters, Laura finds within herself an energy she never imagined possessing. A primal scream escapes her throat when she manages to free herself for a moment and attacks with all she has. Her movements are clumsy and untechnical, but carry a brute force driven by instinct, so unpredictable that for a moment they manage to unbalance the enemy. John takes a few steps back, surprised, but soon rage returns, and he knocks her down brutally. The impact against the ground makes Laura feel that her body will break. She sees his shadow grow over her like that of an executioner about to carry out his victim. When John raises his arm for the final blow, she gropes desperately on the ground and finds something sharp. Without hesitation, she drives it into his leg with all the strength she still has. The cut is deep, and John finally reacts, staggering for a moment, but his eyes remain filled with hatred and madness, like those of a wild animal. Laura's heart races, and she begins to crawl towards the car, feeling every muscle burn and every breath seem the last. John's steps sound heavy behind her, and fear pushes her forward. In the final instant, she takes advantage of his blind fury and sets an ambush. She lures the enemy into the car, where the cramped space becomes her weapon. Taken by instinct and despair, she grabs his own axe and delivers a blow charged with all the accumulated pain, rage, and fear. The impact is brutal, and John finally falls. Laura remains motionless for a few seconds, trembling and trying to believe she has truly won. When she reaches her daughters, her heart leaps with joy at the sight of them breathing. Kayla is kneeling beside her sister in tears, and when she notices her mother approaching, her look fills with relief. Laura kneels and embraces them with all the strength she has left, as if never letting them go again. Tears and sobs mix in a desperate hug, but the place remains suffocating and dangerous. They decide to leave without many words and lean on each other to reach the car. Laura carefully settles the daughters in the back seat, and before getting in, looks at John's motionless body. She watches in silence for a few seconds until she convinces herself there is no life left. Then she returns to the car, sits in the driver's seat, closes her eyes for a moment, and releases a long sigh, trying to loosen the fear that still tightens inside. She turns the key, and the car begins to move slowly along the road that seems to promise peace. But Kayla, still in shock, looks out the rear window, and her eyes widen at seeing something that makes her pale. She notices that John's body is gone, showing that he still lives. She tries to call to her mother, but can only whisper. Suddenly, the engine chokes, and the vehicle stops amid a suffocating silence. Laura tries several times to restart the vehicle, and panic returns. Fortunately, the car starts again, and the three breathe relieved, leaving that place of terror.